Hi everyone, today I will be presenting my Pechakucha on Tiresias, a character from Greek mythology, and how T.S. Eliot alludes to this character in his poem The Wasteland. The Wasteland was written during the modernist movement which occurred from the late 19th century to the mid-20th century, following World War I. T.S. Eliot, full name Thomas Stearns Eliot, was a poet, essayist, publisher, playwright, literary critic, and editor. One of his most renowned poems, The Wasteland, is considered a central work of the modernist movement. Published in 1922, The Wasteland takes on a unique form, is filled with allusions, and includes multiple languages. Some significant writers of the modernist period include T.S. Eliot, Virginia Woolf, Joseph Conrad, and Ezra Pound. This period was a reevaluation of the values of previous writers. It included a romantic rejection of Enlightenment positivism. Positivism is the idea that we can know facts about the natural world based on our own experiences. World War I was a catalyst for the modernist movement. People had a new, more negative understanding of the world, and the writing during this period broke traditional ways of writing and focused on the minds of characters. There was also a new focus on experimentation, newness, and abandoning the fixed point of view. World War I inspired a more real depiction of the world through literature. In The Wasteland, Eliot creates a somber, dark mood that is pervasive throughout each section of the poem. In A Game of Chess and The Burial of the Dead, Eliot creates a sense of hopelessness and despair that reflects the aftermath of World War I. In A Game of Chess, he asks, "What shall we ever do?" And from The Burial of the Dead, he says, "I will show you fear in a handful of dust." And also, he says, "Unreal city, under the brown fog of a winter dawn, a crowd flowed over London Bridge, so many. I had not thought death had undone so many. Sighs short and infrequent were exhaled." Another historical event that impacted the modernist movement and T.S. Eliot's poem The Wasteland was the Industrial Revolution. Eliot includes connections between the Industrial Revolution and the technological advancements of the time. His poem can be read as quite critical of the Industrial Revolution. T.S. Eliot comments on the Industrial Revolution by emphasizing the negative effects it has on nature and humanity. From The Burial of the Dead, he says, "What are the roots that clutch, what branches grow out of this stony rubbish? Son of man, you cannot say or guess, for you know only a heap of broken images, where the sun beats and the dead tree gives no shelter, the cricket no relief." From What the Thunder Said, he says, "After torchlight red on sweaty faces, after the frosty silence in the gardens, after the agony in stony places." So here you can see images of industrialization. Stony rubbish is one of them, and he is connecting those with images such as roots, branches, dead tree, and gardens. Eliot's poem The Wasteland is rife with allusions. He alludes to Greek mythology, the Bible, composers, poets like Milton, playwrights like Shakespeare, history like World War I and the Fire Sermon, and also pop culture when he cites the London Bridge is falling down. The poem is separated into 5 sections: The Burial of the Dead, A Game of Chess, The Fire Sermon, Death by Water, What the Thunder Said. He alludes to Tiresias in the Fire Sermon, as he calls on him as a spectator of the events contained in the poem. "I, Tiresias, though blind, throbbing between 2 lives, old man with wrinkled female breast can see." Tiresias is known in Greek mythology as the blind prophet of Apollo. He was not born blind, but rather there are several stories of how Tiresias became blind and was given the gift of prophecy. In one story, it is said that he became blind for staring at the goddess Athene while she was bathing in a lake. After she struck him blind, he begged her mother to undo the curse, and she tried to but couldn't, so she gave him the gift of prophecy. In another story, Zeus and Hera were in an argument about whether males or females experience more pleasure during sex, and they asked Tiresias, since he had been both male and female, and he said definitely women, so Hera got mad and knocked him blind, and Zeus was glad that he took his side and gave him the gift of prophecy. Some important things to note about Tiresias as a main figure in this poem is his role as a spectator to the events contained in the poem. Tiresias can also be seen as a connecting link between the past and the present. He was a blind prophet. He has been both man and woman, and he is immortal, though he died after drinking from a spring. Tiresias has several characteristics that are conflicting. He is blind, physically blind, and can't see, but he is a prophet, so he can see into the future. He was a man and turned into a woman and went back to a man, but he still retains the qualities of a woman as well as a man. And he's immortal, but he died drinking from a spring. In the fire sermon, Tiresias appears several times. I, Tiresias, old man with wrinkled doves, perceived the scene and foretold the rest. I, too, awaited the expected guest. So here you can see he has characteristics of an old man, as it says old man with wrinkled, characteristics of both male and female, and he is a spectator because he is perceiving the scene. Tiresias' role in the wasteland has been debated by scholars, and he can represent a variety of different things. I feel that Tiresias' role as spectator in the novel is to reflect the society that is described. Though some argue that he represents order, I feel like he represents disorder and mirrors the dysfunction in the poem. Matthew Scully from Emerson College wrote Plasticity at the Violet Hour, Tiresias, the Wasteland in Poetic Form. In his work, he describes Tiresias as a figure of unprincipled disorder. He centers his argument on the term plasticity, meaning that something is capable of being shaped or formed. Scully focuses on Tiresias' throbbing between two lives on page 385 of The Wasteland, and he suggests that though he is changing from one form to another, from woman to man, he perhaps cannot erase all traces of previous forms, as he still has characteristics of both male and female. I feel that Tiresias' inability to completely change from one form to another is reflective of all humanity. Even when people attempt to change themselves for the better or for the worse, they cannot erase all characteristics of their previous selves. This creates disorder and chaos, and that disorder is reflected in the wasteland.